the Montreal Canadiens reverse retro jersey has been leaked, and I love what I see. I'll be showing you guys what that looks like. Plus, we'll talk about some advanced statistics that show that Kirby Dach might just be the Habs' best player so far this year. Finally, we'll get into Joshua Roy, one of the Habs' best prospects, and just how much he is dominating the QMJHL. So let's get right into this episode of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, and welcome everyone to today's news episode of Habs Digest for October 16th. Again, guys, I want to remind you to like and subscribe to the channel because there will be daily content just like this, just like the recaps from last night and the night before, and you won't want to miss any of it. So let's get into it right away. Let's get into the leaked Habs reverse retro jersey. Now, we saw some of the reverse retros last year with that deep blue color on the Habs jersey. Some people were a fan of it, some people were not. Some people thought, why are we wearing blue as the primary? It reminds us of the Maple Leafs. But this year, we still went blue, but we went a bit of another direction. A reliable source at Aesthetics has done up a mock-up of what the Habs reverse retro jersey will probably look like for this season, and here it is. Look at that beautiful powder blue inspired by the Montreal Expos. You can see the Twitter links for the people that made the mock-up of the jersey in the bottom right. Credit to them. And oh my gosh, guys. I mean, just look at this. Look how beautiful it is. Powder blue, just like the Expos. And I mean, I'm in love with this jersey. You know, I didn't buy the reverse retro last year. It wasn't my favorite jersey. I know some people who did buy it. Some people loved it. I really didn't. But this year, I might just have to buy that right away. Because that might be maybe my favorite Habs jersey I've ever seen. You know, I'm a bit partial to the barber pole, the striped all the way down. I don't own one. I'd love to own one someday. But this is about as good as you can get. I'm a sucker for baby blue, powder blue, and I think this will look amazing on ice. I cannot wait until it's official and until it's in the Habs store, but I know it's going to be tough to get one because they're going to sell out quickly. So let me know what you guys think of that jersey in the comments. Do you think it's better or worse than last year's jersey? Do you think the baby blue is a good look for Montreal? Because I do, and I'm really, really excited to see what it looks like on the ice. So topic number 2 today. Kirby Dach is the Canadiens' best player? That's a really bold claim, isn't it? Well, yeah, of course it is. I mean, we've watched the games. Maybe Nick Suzuki's been our best player. Maybe Jake Allen with his amazing performance against both Toronto and Detroit. But there are some advanced statistics that may disagree. And one of them is the advanced statistic expected goals for percentage. Basically, it's a percentage that shows how much more likely your team is to score while a certain player is on the ice. And here are the stats for the Montreal Canadiens through 3 games. You can see here we only have 6 players that are even above 50%, and that's not exactly great news for Montreal. It shows we've been underperforming. But if you look right at the top there, Kirby Dach is number 1 at 75.61% expected goals for. That essentially means that Montreal is 75%, or has a 75% chance of scoring compared to the other team when Kirby Dach is on the ice. Now, what you may also notice is there's a lack of Nick Suzuki. There's a lack of Cole Caulfield. There's a lack of, a lot of other guys that you may have thought have been playing amazing through the first few games. Maybe even Josh Anderson. He scored that goal against Toronto late. So yes, advanced statistics can be a bit flawed. This doesn't really show the whole story because just by the eye test, we know maybe Suzuki has been our best player this season. This doesn't show goalies, of course, but again, Jake Allen's been amazing. But what it does show is that Kirby Dach really is passing the eye test. Same thing for Sean Monahan. If you look at this, Sean Monahan is number 2 and Kovacevic is number 3. And by the eye test, for me at least, those 3 have all been fantastic this season. I've mentioned in the post-game recaps how happy I am with Kovacevic, and Jesse has said the same thing. He said, is he this year's Rem Pitlick, a waiver wire pickup that ends up being a great performer for us throughout the season. But Monahan, we know he's been about 70% on the draw almost this season. I believe he's in the 60s somewhere. Kirby Dach last night had his first game at above 50% on the faceoff dot, but one thing I've mentioned in the post-game recaps is when Kirby Dach is on the ice, he brings this energy that just, he feeds off the other players and the other players feed off him. He's been winning board battles like crazy. His hustle into the corners, into the dirty areas is unlike almost anyone on this team so far. And when I see a stat like this, the expected goals for is super high for Kirby Dach, this guy that we acquired for just moving around some draft picks and shipping out Alexander Romanov. This young center coming in and putting up these kind of advanced stats so far is really heartening. I mean, him and again Monahan, who we acquired for basically nothing this summer. These two offseason acquisitions leading the team in a very important advanced stat is super encouraging for me, and it should be super encouraging for you guys as Habs fans. And just another thing that is really encouraging for us Habs fans, I don't know if some of you are familiar with one of our prospects, Joshua Roy. Wow, I screwed up his name, and it's my name. Well, there we go, Josh Roy, but he is dominating the QMJHL so far this year. I don't know if you guys looked at his stats from last year. He's a forward. He's a solid prospect in our system. He's not right at the top or anything, but he's quite good. I'm very excited for him, and I think he'll definitely crack the Habs roster within the next couple of seasons. But last year in the Q, he put up 119 points, and it may surprise you guys right now that so far he is on pace for more than that. So take a look at his Hockey DB page right now. With St. John a couple of years ago, he was all right. Of course, he was very young in the 2019-20 season, 16 years old, then 17 years old. But now, as a 19-year-old, as an 18-year-old, he put up 51 goals in 66 games for 119 points. And this year so far has 6 goals and 17 points in 7 games. This man is averaging like 2.5 points a game. He's on pace for about 150 so far this season. And not many people have hit 150 points in the Q. Plenty of people have hit around 120, but if he keeps up what he's doing, he's going to join some elite company. And, you try not to overhype your own prospects because oftentimes you end up a little disappointed. One example for me, I was huge on Matthias Norlinder, and I still think he has a chance to make Montreal, maybe even later this season, depending on how injuries and how some of the rookies pan out. But I was super high on him when he was in the SHL, and he didn't quite pan out yet. I think he still has a ton of time, but I think it's clear he's not going to be as good, as I thought, maybe a number 1 or number 2 defenseman. But Joshua Watt has been super impressive. He's had some incredible highlights over the last few games, and I'm just really excited to see what he can eventually do for Montreal in a couple seasons. So keep an eye out for him. In the QMJHL, it looks too easy for him. I do wish he was in a higher league right now because he's just dominating and it looks like he doesn't even need to try. I'm really, really hyped to see what he can do in higher leagues in the coming seasons. So, one last thing to close this video off. We're going to talk about Filip Mesar. Filip Mesar was another draft pick by the Montreal Canadiens. And, he went to training camp this year. He had a chance to crack the roster. He didn't quite do it, and that's fine. It was expected. He's very young, but he was sent down to Laval. And through Laval's first few games, he was put on the 4th line. He played a little bit here and there, but the Laval coach was really, saying you got to earn the top spot. Just because you were a draft pick by Montreal, a fairly high draft pick, doesn't mean that you're going to play top-line minutes. So that was very clear to Mesar. And he really seemed a little out of place in Laval so far this year, so he's been sent back to the OHL to the Kitchener Rangers. And what does this mean for his future? Well, it means that his talent level isn't quite up to what maybe we would want right away, but I think this is the perfect move for his development because in Laval, if you're going to play in Laval, it's great, a higher level of competition, but if you're going to play 4th line minutes in Laval, you're better off just going and getting your confidence up, dominating in the OHL. Now, I don't believe Kitchener's a very good team, and I think a lot of Habs fans are hoping he'll get traded to another OHL team around the deadline, just so he can really perform with a good team and get his confidence up. This is a situation similar to Nemetz, the 2nd overall pick this year by the New Jersey Devils, right behind Juraj Slafkovsky, fellow Slovakian. He didn't crack the Devils roster. Well, he sort of did, but he was the 7th defenseman, so the Devils decided we're going to put him down in the AHL. And as Nemetz said, it's better to be dominating in the AHL, playing a lot of minutes, than to be the 7th D on an NHL team because you're not getting that game time experience. And we all know game time experience is so important for every player. Martin St. Louis, talking about Juraj Slafkovsky, even though Slafkovsky has topped out at about 12 minutes in a game, I think it was under 11 in his first 2 and just over 12 last night, Martin St. Louis said, not a single minute goes to waste when you're talking about developing a prospect. Every single second on the ice is valuable. You learn something. So I think this is a great idea for Filip Mesar. I think he'll eventually be on the Montreal Canadiens in a couple seasons, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the OHL this year. It's been really fun to follow him, Joshua Watt, and any other prospect we have. Lane Hudson is playing great in the NCAA, our second round pick this season. The small defenseman with a ton of speed and a great offensive upside. So I'm really excited for all of our prospects, Watt, Mesar, of course, Uri Slavkovsky, and I'm really excited to see what's coming. So that'll do it for today's news video. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. I've been Josh Gosse. I'll see you in the next video.